Billy here. Moscow at the hostel, as you can see. Nice setup here. I'll show you outside here. It's a really dreary, rainy, windy, cold day. But that's alright. I don't have to be out in it. I'll have to go get my other case from the office sometime today, but that's about all I gotta do. Hopefully it'll clear up a little late morning or early afternoon. What are we going to talk about today, Uncle Bildy? Well, I'm just going to ramble, but it'll be good, about what they call conspiracy theories. They all tie together. I mean, it's hard to think that the bug that had us locked down, and the Nazis in Ukraine, and the Great Reset, and what's happening in Sri Lanka, and that little attempted coup in Belarus, and the one in Kazakhstan, and the January 6th incident, and all that stuff, how could that all be linked together and part of one plan? It is. Hey. Now, it's a simple theory that explains it? No, it's extremely complicated and hard to believe theory that explains it. No, it's the same people behind all this stuff. And why wouldn't it be? All these separate things are just accomplishing different aspects of the same objective. It's a worldwide objective. The Great Reset is a worldwide objective. I mean, you can read the book and you can listen to Klaus Schwab, and they'll tell you that. It's worldwide. They have worldwide ambitions. They have worldwide intentions. They want to use technology to absolutely, fundamentally change people into being more controllable and uniform and incapable of resisting. That's what the goal is. And surprisingly, there's a bunch of people that are on board with it.
It'll solve crime, and it'll be wonderful. It'll end poverty.
Yeah. Chickens in a meat farm in their little cages don't have any crime or poverty. They got plenty to eat. You want to be like them? Well, actually, you're not going to be like them because they don't eat you. Okay, that's one thing that they don't do. Well, actually, they probably do in limited amounts, but they don't plan on eating us. We're livestock, but we're supposed to be kind of more like a robotic livestock. We're supposed to do what they tell us to, menial tasks. And all tasks are menial now because they think that the internet can make a replacement for skills and knowledge and expertise and experience. Anyway, this all started about 100 years ago when you first started seeing the corporations and the billionaires and their influence and everything. A little over 100 years ago in America, it was John D. Rockefeller, the son of Devil Bill, the snake oil salesman. John D. Rockefeller's father was an actual snake oil salesman, and he was an actual carpetbagger. What ethnicity is, well, there's been some research on that, but that's not important. Anyway, they changed their name. He changed his name, son's name, John D. Rockefeller. And he founded all these charities after discovering, or his scientists discovered all the things that they could make out of petroleum. The Standard Oil Company, they started making pharmaceutical companies and chemical companies and coming up with all kinds of wonderful things to sell and ways to sell it. With pressure groups, anti-poverty groups, all these little do-gooders and little Miss Peck-and-Sniff, armies of little Miss Peck-and-Sniffs going around, going to eradicate poverty and pestilence and make everybody equal. Well, you have problems with in the slums that they pile these immigrants into, with rats, lice, bed bugs, pestilence. Old Johnny D had a solution. They made all kinds of chemicals. You just wipe that stuff out, and they sold them on it. All the do-gooders were pressuring their communities to douse all these neighborhoods with all these neurotoxins. What could go wrong? Well, it did go wrong. It's probably where polio came from. There's plenty of books written about it. I'm not going to go through the whole thing. You can do your own research, but it wasn't a virus. The reason you think it's a virus is because the chemical companies that made these compounds and pushed them, they had to spin that somehow. And they just happened to have started medical colleges to train doctors, and the AMA, all that stuff. It all came out of Rockefeller's money, and Rockefeller controlled it, and their foundations continue to control it. Germ theory, push that. Shut up about terrain theory. Don't talk about that. It all comes from there. Your education, your licensing, everything. They had to push it. It's a virus, because then they could sell you the solution to that. Whether they stumbled upon that accidentally or it was pre-planned, it's probably an accident. These people ride the waves of chaos like surfers. There's some pretty gnarly waves, but they ride them. Yeah, we created a situation where we poisoned all these children, and well, now we got to make people believe that it's some sort of invisible bug and microscopic thing that jumps from person to person. But we got the cure for it. We got these injections we can give you. And we get research. We get tons of charity money going in for research so we can find the solution and then sell it to you. That's what happened. And it's still happening. It's expanded worldwide. The WHO, the CDC, all that stuff. They're controlled by the Davos crowd. And they do trial runs. And they run biolabs. And they're in bed with the military. We can make weapons out of this to target specific ethnicities. Oh, wouldn't that be great? And then you got your Burisma and the Biden crime family and the biolabs in Ukraine. And they've got them on all that stuff. I beg of you, get on Telegram. That's where the information is. It's not censored. Get on Telegram. I'll hook you up. I'll put some links down here in Telegram. You can look at the freaking documents they found. You can follow the connections. I mean, there's no way this could be made up and like false information and phony evidence. That, along with the admissions from certain people in the U.S. State Department and government. It's cut and dried. Ukraine's cut and dried. So how does COVID and Nazis and and Antifa and Zelensky and their celebrities and all this stuff ties together? It's got all the same people behind it. It's all part of a whole. The important thing now is to know where it's going. I think I know where it's going. You look at the structure, it's still there. Ukraine is over. Russia is doing what they want with Ukraine. Azov is emptied out. There's a few of them still down there, but we don't really care what happens to them. They've got these, in the Western media they said the Ukraine evacuated its wounded from Azov, or from the steel factory. They didn't evacuate them. Russia went in and took them out. I mean, took them out nicely, carried them out, and took them to hospitals in Russia, where they'll be examined who they are, where they've been, who's got charges against them, who's witnessing against them, and they'll all be put on trial and tried for their war crimes, of many of which they committed. The remaining ones, they'll be dealt with in another way, probably. It's over. Around the Donbass, the remaining Ukrainians are caught in a cauldron. They need to give up. There's no military objective to accomplish, but the U.S. is pressuring them, you stay there till you die, so we can say the brutal Russians killed people for no reason. It's nothing more than that. You guys want to die for that? Doesn't seem very smart. And you people waving your little blue and yellow murder puppet flags around, we know who you are. You've made it quite clear. I won't remember, because all this other stuff is going to go off. It's going to be a lot worse. Think of this. How many billion? Was it 40 billion more they're pouring in to a cause that's already lost? Do you really think that's where it's going? Oh, no. And if you were to imprison or get rid of otherwise every single Nazi in Ukraine, it really wouldn't do any good. But for the next stage, because the next stage isn't going to need them. The next stage is going to be Europe and the U.S. How did the Nazis get in Ukraine? You really need to understand this. And I'll put some links down here. It's an 80-year-old network. At the end of World War II, the United States put German Nazis on trial at Nuremberg, but Baltic Nazis, Lithuanians, Latvians, etc., they went on the payroll as the Forest Brothers. And Ukrainian Nazis, the Banderites, well, they shipped a bunch of them to Canada and established them as nice businessmen to make money to finance the ones that stayed in Ukraine. And there's networks, there's command structure, there's financing, CIA help, MI6 help, or MI5, or whoever it is that deals with that, or people you've probably never heard of. This is established almost 80 years ago, and it's still there. And these people are second and third generation, ensconced in their businesses that were given to them. They've done well with them. They're woven into the fabric of Canadian society, the Ukrainian diaspora. Not all Ukrainians in Canada are Nazis, but there's a very, very powerful network of them. They interfered in the election before last. I did some articles on that in 2016. I don't remember. I'm going to have to look that up. I don't file things very well. I just put it out and forget it. I'll have to dig and see if I can find some of that. But other people did some research on it as well. The Ukrainian diaspora, actual Nazis in the Ukrainian diaspora in Canada were they were up to some illegal activities and some thug work for Hillary in the 2016 election. They really wanted Hillary to get in. And not Trump. Trump kind of crippled their goals a little bit. And they had to take them back up again when old Poopy Pants got in. But they're there. They're powerful. They're well-respected people. They got plenty of money. They've got all their people in place, too. They've made sure that the correct people are in the sheriff's departments and the prosecutor's office and the coroner's office and key locations all over Canada and America. And now when your economy collapses, guess who's going to be poised to make the revolution? Another Maidan in U.S. There's going to be Maidans all over Europe, too. European people are sick and tired of having their cost of living skyrocket, to have their products disappear, to have their jobs disappear, to serve doomed U.S. geopolitical interests, because that's what's been happening. They're going to have a lot of Maidans in Europe. And there's a certain worldwide organization, or in the west-wide organization, the head seems to be in Canada. They're going to be poised to take control of these little revolutions and civil wars, just like they did in Ukraine. It's something you might want to think about. Mark my words, that's what's going on. Are the White Hats going to come and rescue you? Well, the White Hats might even be working with them for all I know. I got my suspicions about your Q people and the White Hats. If they were legit, they would have been organizing people into actual powerful groups that can do something. Oh, maybe they're doing it behind the scenes. Well, I don't see any evidence whatsoever of it. They just been giving you riddles to solve and telling you to trust the plan. I hope I'm wrong. But the White Hats that come in and rescue you are probably going to have a nice little German helmet under their white hat and a Nazi uniform under their cape. Might want to think about that. You better be real careful and not let them get you out on the street jumping up and down. They've got snipers, they got thugs, They've proven that. Who are these guys in Australia that were gleefully beating people for not wearing masks or protesting? There were a bunch of them that had a strange insignia that nobody's ever identified or seen before. It looks kind of like a wolf or a fox, and could also be an alien. This weird little head on their uniform and no other markings. They've got international groups of mercenary thugs that they ship around and put in these situations to quell riots or to foment riots, to exacerbate riots, to get control of riots. They all work together. The Australian police were told, yeah, we're bringing in these special people. You stay out of their way. If they ask you to do something, you do it. Nobody knows who they are. I watched these guys. I watched a lot of footage of them. My intuition tells me they're Poles. Polish mercenaries are everywhere. They use them a lot for this stuff. I saw them a lot in I saw them a lot in Iraq. I worked with the Polish military in Afghanistan. I don't like them very much. Polish people keep doing the same thing over and over again, or their government does. It never works out very well for them. Hundreds of years ago, they attacked Russia. And back then they had these big, I think they were cast iron apparatuses, these harnesses they wore that were just purely ornamental, that held up these things that they put big white feathers on so they could look like avenging angels when they're riding at you with their weapons. What vanity. What kind of dumbass would do something like that with their army? You think those things were reliability? Getting caught in the trees, a nice handle you could pull people down with. Real smart. Yeah, they went rolling across the frozen lake at the Russians who were waiting on the other bank. Russians know about thin ice. They're pretty good at that stuff. The Poles couldn't stand it. They couldn't wait. We're going for it. So thousands, maybe, I don't know how big the army was. I think it was tens of thousands of horse hooves beating on the ice, rolling across that big plain of ice on a frozen lake. They didn't make it. They're all at the bottom of the lake with their angel wings. Jeez. And now what they're doing, they've opened the Polish border pretty much. It's just not even existed between Poland and Ukraine. And those billions of dollars of weapons, what there are of them, it's old junk that the Western Europe and the U.S. wants to get rid of. Oh, and Canada. And you see it in the news feeds. Oh, the Russians really going to get it now because we spent 155 howitzers to them. Like that's some sort of magic pill. Oh, that's really high tech. Really? A 155 howitzer? Ooh. 90 of them, no less. Yeah. They're sending junk over and expired stuff and stuff that doesn't work very well because they don't care. They're not letting them surrender. They're going to keep them there till they die for no political objective whatsoever. It's just a mean little girls club. Yeah. Scratching your face out in all the pictures. Sour grapes. Now the real money, where's that going? In congressmen's pockets. And I'm sure quite a bit of it is getting back into the command structure of the Nazis. They got something planned. They've already lost Ukraine. What do you think they're going to do next? They're going to take advantage of the economic collapse and all these revolutions. And they're going to get their hands on a nation with nuclear weapons, and they're going to be in control of it. That's their ambition. Then what's going to happen? I think you better be thinking about doing something about that if you can. I'm sure Russia knows about it. They probably got a plan too, but it's going to be ugly. And that combined with, the lockdowns that they can throw on you anytime they want, and the mandatory jabbies, all the other aspects, the control of your environment, your food, your the internet of everything where they can shut things off anytime they want, fuel prices. It all ties together, right? Yeah, it's all part of a whole. It will be. Oh, I don't want to bum people out and make you think it's hopeless. It's not hopeless. Well, unless you don't believe in spiritual things. You don't believe in God. I have friends that are atheists that have more integrity than most Christians I know. And they're out there doing the best they can, working against this stuff. It's amazing. I don't know how they do it without any faith. I really don't. I think they got some faith. They just don't want to admit it. But maybe they don't know they got it. World's made out of faith. It can be good faith or bad faith. You can believe in the truth and seek it. It's hard. Try to find it and stay with it, and it hurts. And it's dangerous. Or you can believe the cartoons and have a nice soft little life and wait for the White Hats to come and save you. Or wait for Jesus to come back and rapture you while you're laying in your barca lounger watching soft porn on Netflix. That's what most Americans are doing. Anyway, try to end on a positive note. Everything ties together because everything does tie together. What's your existential philosophy? How do you think the world works? How do you think the universe works? I learned a lot from people who are kind of weird and flawed, but they had certain aspects that they were real good at in the truth. I used to follow Ken Wheeler. I quit over this Ukraine thing. He's up to something. He lived in Russia back in the 90s. Actually, he lived in it back when it was the Soviet. He lived in it in the late 80s, I think. Yeah, that's when it was. He speaks Russian pretty well from what I've heard. He didn't speak it much, but he goes off into it sometimes. His pronunciation's pretty darn good. He speaks several languages, and he's a scholar. He touts himself as the world's foremost expert on Pali. I don't know if he is or not, but I haven't seen anybody else really can expound on it like he does. And ancient Pali was the language of original Buddhism and metaphysics, and he's really good on that. And I learned a lot from the guy. He basically is in agreement with everything Nikolai Tesla said, and Nikolai Tesla's mentors, the people he admired, and I've read, he pointed me to these books, and I've read them, and they're mind-blowing. Roger Boscovich. You see the picture of Tesla sitting with his, the intellectual pose, and he's holding a book. In that era, if somebody posed for a formal portrait and they're holding a book, it's not just a prop. This book is seminal. It is important. It is the most important book to them. It's the book on which they base their thinking. He's holding a book by Roger Boscovich, a fellow Serb who'd written it like 100 years or so before Tesla. What a book. It's difficult, very difficult. But if you just read parts of it, and it'll take you a couple hours to go through a few paragraphs to get your head around it. But it's in agreement with ancient metaphysics, the metaphysics of original Buddhism, of the Egyptians, the Greeks. It's basically what people believed, forms of it and parts of it, at least in the second temple period when Christ was on the earth. And that opens up a lot of meaning in his disputes with the Pharisees and the things that he said in the metaphysics behind Orthodox Christianity. Matter comes from energy, in a nutshell. That's where it comes from. Science agrees with that, but they have a convoluted way of explaining it. Energy comes from perturbances in the dialectic ether. Science doesn't believe in dialectic ether because it can't be detected. It's made of nothing. It carries the instructions for DNA, chromosomes, cell growth, molecular structure, atomic structure. The instructions for everything after their kind is carried by the dialectic ether, which pervades everything. But it's not detectable because it's not made out of anything. That's in line with the creation story. God made everything that is not from that which was, but from that which was not by his word, logos. The dialectic ether contains the logos, the instructions for everything. These people with their colliders, their CERN, their God particle research and all this stuff, they're trying to find a way to control that with your tax money. It's doomed. They can't control it. Control it or to somehow destroy it or subvert it. It's a pretty deep fundamental attack on God, isn't it? It's going to fail. Your thoughts, your dreams, your intuition. You know a lot of things that you don't really know that you know. You got to be careful because sometimes you're wrong, but intuition is a really strange thing, and so are dreams and visions. Where do they come from? What are they? Where do your thoughts, where are your memories stored? Are your memories in little creases in your cranium inside your skull? Really? Is it a software program with electrochemical interaction with receptors in your brain? Is that where your memory is? Well, that might be a reflection of it on that. The physical is a reflection of the spiritual in many ways. I once got to hear a prophet, I don't even call him a prophet, somebody with a gift of discernment. This Christianese for a clairvoyant, or sciencey language would be a clairvoyant, or somebody that's transcendental or whatever they are, or telepathic. I think everybody knows somebody that can do stuff like that, or maybe experience it a bit themselves. Grandma's whipping up some batter to make some cake out of or something, all of a sudden she just, oh my God, something happened to Stephen. How did she know? That happens a lot. A lot of people have experienced it. A thought just drops into you from out of nowhere. A very detailed, precise thought. It ends up being right. Somebody 50, 100, 1,000 miles away from you has something happen to them. How does that work? How does that happen? There's something that you can't describe. In the ether, maybe. I don't know. How do birds navigate? Magnetism? It has something to do with it. Magnetism has something to do with ether too. Use ferrite material and copper windings and magnets and move them against each other. You create a perturbance in the dielectric ether and you generate power. You have to have a ground and someplace for it to go. Natural magnets create perturbances when they play with them. Interesting stuff. Ken Wheeler's got some good stuff, but he went off the rails on the Ukraine thing. He's definitely anti-Soviet. What was he doing in the Soviet Union in the 80s anyway? Who paid for that? What was he up to? A lot of people are brilliant, and they tell you a lot of truth, but then they got something going on the side there, and they're being paid by somebody, and they got to do what they got to do for their own reasons. You see that a lot. I've known people that were just positively brilliant. And I know people now that are, but they got one little quirk, one little thing that is just so off and so untrue, but they double down on that no matter what. You just avoid that subject with them. And, it's between them and God. Nobody's perfect. People have their reasons for the little things that they believe in. Anyway, back to what I was talking about. There was a guy in a church that if somebody's really going through something and they haven't told anybody about it and they're just struggling with it, this is the guy that will walk up on you and speak to you. What's exactly what you needed to hear. Detailed. How did he know? Yeah. One of my friends, she was from New York. Jewish family. Everything you'd imagine too. Loud and pushy, but delightful lady. I love her. She's great. But she was very curious about how that worked, and she just went up and asked the guy, "How do you tell us? I want you to tell us how you experience this. What is it like to you? How does it work?" And I got to hear that. The guy said, when you watch CNN, they got that little ticker tape going by with the all the unrelated stories. It's not the story you're hearing, but it's this happened, this happened, this happened. So-and-so did this. It's little ticker tape. It's just like that. Only it's up here. This ticker tape's running by. And it's just nonsense. But every once in a while you see something that's pertinent, and it's like you can said you could like pull it down when it's needed, and it's something that's needed right there and then in the church or with a friend or something that you need. It's like a memories, everybody's thoughts, everybody's statements, everything everybody's going through is up here somewhere, just rolling by like a fabric. And the things that are pertinent and the things that are necessary, some people have the gift where they can pull them down. What's the lottery number going to be? Oh, okay, it doesn't work like that, kidding. But that's how he explained it, and it rings true to me. And I've known a few people that had that gift, and never put it like that guy. But then I didn't grill them over how it works either, because I'm not a Jewish woman from New York. But gonna get in a real strange territory now. You ever have dreams that it's like it's somebody else's dream? What the hell is this? This isn't me. Some of my earliest ones, I remember, I know only by location, because I had a big family, 4 bedrooms upstairs, a tiny little one a little bigger, and then the big one. 4 different sized bedrooms. Of course, the oldest child gets the big one. Well, I was in the little tiny one until my brother moved out. He got married and moved out in 1966. I would have been 4 years old. So I moved from that room to the bigger room when I was 4. My memories from that room, I had dreams. I had dreams of being held by a woman in a hoop dress and lace in a carriage, a form like a brougham, going really fast with a dude driving it, going to a big house up on a hill with a tarn in front of it, with a doctor in there. And a lot of people say, well, you're reincarnated. You died as a little kid 100 years ago. No, it wasn't my memory. Why I dreamed it, I don't know. It's something that was up there that's pertinent. It's probably somebody in my family from a long time ago. I don't know. People can take that stuff and run with it and make all kinds of stuff out of it. But the possibilities are mind-blowing about what it could be. Strange. I used to have a dream then in that little room before I was, when I was 4, before I was 5. I used to dream I was in a city with these big buildings around, and there's Zeppelins going overhead. Freaking Zeppelins, these big cigar-shaped things, and they were kind of brown colored, and they were real noisy, and they were going over, and everybody was scared of them. Where the hell did that come from? I didn't see any of that on television. I didn't see movies about that kind of stuff. I never saw any kind of imagery like that. But I had a dream about it when I was about 4 or younger. It's not my memory. It's something, for some reason, was put there. I don't know why. I don't think it's random. Maybe it is. I don't know what to do with it. This is the first time I've ever told anybody about it. I don't know why. It's not that people think you're weird. I don't give a rat's ass anymore. You can think I'm weird all you want. I don't care. Doesn't bother me a bit. That's my power. I just want the truth. Don't have to understand everything. Well, this has kind of gone all over the place. But the thing I want to leave you with is what's going to happen next. Oh, jerk back over that. I got to get off on a rabbit trail and then jerk back to the main train. The main track is what's going to happen next. Europe, North America, be ready. There's highly organized, incredibly ruthless, nasty, horrible freaking people that are poised to control your revolution or your Maidan or your civil war, whichever it may be. Are they in the military? The U.S. military? I like to think that's a place where they really don't have a place. But then again, who's the command structure? Who's going to be controlling it? The Trump? I don't know. Good luck. Muzzle tov. There's a lot of people who have done a lot of research on this stuff. You need to start looking and find some identities and find some pictures and people you recognize and who's going to be put out there. You're going to need to find some alternative forms of communication. Really? Telegram? Maybe some servers that your community controls. This is going to get really ugly, I think. When it's going to happen? Maybe next week. Maybe a year from now. It's going to happen, though. How can you take the wind out of it? Don't go out and riot. Don't go after people. Don't go out in the streets. Posture yourself as defense and don't kill people for crying out loud unless you absolutely have to. I mean, that's just good doctrine. Too many Americans are way ready to kill people. They're thirsting for it. That's not good. God is good. He's benevolent. He cares about us. He's just, but he's also merciful. Keep that in mind at all times. Uncle Bill D, signing out.